Want to know how our team closed over $5 million in GCI over pay-per-click leads? Stay tuned. I'm going to share with you the exact formula and plan that we've used to do that. My name is Mike Novak. I'm a producing agent on the Novak real estate team and part of Real Brokerage. In 2017, our team was just my wife and myself. Rachel, my beautiful wife, and I were just starting our team. There was nobody else, just the two of us. And we closed 79 transactions our first year in real estate, the two of us. We did that almost exclusively off of pay-per-click leads. We did not have a sphere in the market. We were brand new to real estate. We had moved not that long before that to this newer county. And so all of our sphere is far north of where we lived. So we knew we had to lean into the phone and into generating new relationships with people we didn't know yet. Pay-per-click was an awesome way to do that. We could not afford Zillow. We could not afford Realtor.com. None of these expensive lead sources, but we could afford pay-per-click. And so we dove head on into that. Almost all of our closings that first year were pay-per-click. We've continued to use pay-per-click ever since then, each and every year. It's been a great lead source. It's always top 3 on our closed lead sources for our entire organization. Our team helps about 250 families each year make a move, and pay-per-click has become a pillar in our lead source strategy. So we do pay-per-click leads, we do Zillow leads, we do open houses. We, of course, do a lot with past clients and sphere of influence. But pay-per-click leads is going to be the focus of this video. I'm going to share with you the game plan that you need, the processes you need to implement and learn, and the skill set you need to adapt to ultimately crush it with these leads. So why do agents struggle with pay-per-click leads? Well, there's 3 big reasons. The first one is they have unrealistic expectations. They think these leads are going to close right away. And that's just not the case. This is not a Zillow lead. If you are really good and you have dialed in processes with pay-per-click leads, you may close 1% in the first 90 days. We have a team track record of closing about 3.4% of our pay-per-click leads, but a lot of those come in months 9 through 36. I just closed a deal the other day that came in 2018 for pay-per-click. So this is a long-term play, and you have to make sure you've got realistic expectations. So that's the first thing, is you just have unrealistic expectations as an agent of how fast this is going to convert. And so you pull the plug in it and you just say, hey, it didn't work for me. And then you say pay-per-click leads don't work. That's not true at all. You just didn't give it long enough. So often I see agents, they cancel pay-per-click after 3 to 6 months, and that's not nearly enough to know if it worked or not. So if you're going to try pay-per-click, be committed to at least a year or longer before you decide if this is a lead source that you want to leverage. The second thing, the number 2 reason that agents fail with pay-per-click leads is a lack of process. They don't have a defined, consistent process for when a lead comes in, or when that lead comes in your CRM, to when they actually become somebody you talk to someone you meet, to someone you transact with, and become a forever client. They have no process for any of this. They just wing it. There's no amount of calls that they have to get in. There's no text plans running. It's just a mess. There's no process defined for these leads. Because there's no process, there's no predictability to what's going to happen for them, okay? So expectations was the first one. Lack of process is the second one. The third one is a lack of skill set. You don't have the skills to actually convert these leads. You've not developed your skills to talk to people that come from an online lead source. So when you get on the phone, you don't know what to say or how to say it to actually break through the clutter and actually connect with this person, start to build a trusting relationship. So now that you know why agents don't do well with pay-per-click leads, let me share with you how to crush it with pay-per-click leads. And don't forget, friends, there are no such thing as shitty leads. There's just shitty lead converters. There's leads that are more bottom of the funnel, like Zillow, no question about that, or Open House. I've done other videos on those lead sources. But pay-per-click leads are awesome if you take the time to learn the skills, develop the processes, and you have realistic expectations on how long it's actually going to take to turn these into a transaction. They're super profitable. The cost per closing is less than half for us than a Zillow lead. So it makes a ton of financial sense. And you can also scale it really easily. You can just continue to turn that dial up and generate more and more opportunities if you want to grow your team. So like I said, this is kind of a top of funnel lead. Like I would say at the very top, you've got Facebook leads that don't have a lot of intentionality. They were not actively searching. They were just passively looking on Facebook. Boom, your ad popped up. That's not a high intent lead. That's what I'm going to call the highest top of funnel, that type of lead experience. At the bottom, you've got the Zillow, which is like ready to go, requesting a home tour. They want to meet with an agent today. This is somewhere in the middle between those two. that person has intentionality because they're going to Google or they're going to Bing or wherever, AOL maybe, and they're typing in homes for sale in X city. Okay, so they're actively searching for homes. They're not just passively sitting there scrolling and looking at pictures of dogs on Facebook and your ad pops up. That is a very, very important difference. Okay. The first thing, that I talked about is that one of the big reasons that agents don't convert leads well with pay-per-click is the lack of defined process. So let's talk about what you should do differently to make sure you've got the processes in place to actually start converting leads. The first thing that you need to think about is, what is your call goal going to be for pay-per-click leads? You're going to call them right away. How many calls should a pay-per-click lead get within their first 30 days? For us, we follow GGMS and their action plans, and we are shooting for 5 calls within 30 days. That doesn't seem like a lot, but if you consistently make 5 calls to your new leads within that 30-day window, odds are if they have any interest, they're going to respond to one of your phone calls or to one of your texts. That brings me to text as the second thing you think about as far as process goes. You need to have some automated text campaigns, combination of text and email that are going to reach out to the person when they register and start a conversation with them. Text works awesome with pay-per-click leads. A lot of these people don't really want to talk to an agent yet. They're just kind of in what I call the information collection phase of the home buying process. But if you can reach out to them passively off of text, you start building that relationship with them, start bringing them value, they start watching your videos and things like that, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute. Ultimately, when they're ready to make a decision, they move to a decision-making process part of the journey, you're going to be top of mind and earn their business. But you have to have some outreach going out. You need to be making phone calls, and you need to be making sure you're leaning into texts and emails in an automated way. That's going to allow you to scale by doing that. So you can go recreate the wheel if you want to and go create your own systems within your CRM. If you're on Follow Up Boss, if you're on Chime, if you're on CR Interactive, you've got access to Hatch Messaging and Systems, which is a great operating system. It provides all these plans for you. If you're in CR Interactive, GGMS is another option for you as well. Also really good. Very different from Hatch. They're 2 very different schools of thought, 2 different approaches to lead conversion, but both are great systems and don't force you to recreate the wheel. If you can't afford either one of those, then you're going to be stuck having to build your own action plans and really test yourself what works and what doesn't. But if you can aim for a text message to go out within a couple of minutes of the person registering, and then do what I call kind of a nudge text, got that from Robbie T over at Hatch. A nudge text is just a text that's like 5 minutes after the first one, checking in to see if they got that first text, and it makes it seem like it's not automated. So shoot for about 10 texts in your first 30 days as well. So if you get about 10 texts in, 5 phone calls, if that person is even remotely interested, they're going to respond to one of those things. If they ignore you, that's sending you a message and telling you that they're just not ready to do anything, and to leave them alone and back off a little bit. Okay. The third one, you need a retargeting process. What are you going to do with the leads that come on your site to stay back in front of them beyond phone calls, texts, and emails? Well, you have to do more than that if you want to crush it. You need to do video, and you need to also retarget them with new listings. And the way you do that is capturing their information when they land on your page and then putting content back in front of them. So on our site, we grab you in our Facebook pixel, and now you're going to start seeing my videos on Facebook. You're going to see them on Instagram. You're going to see them on YouTube. And there's going to be videos where I'm bringing you education, I'm developing authority, and I'm bringing you a lot of value. Things like market report videos, best practices in how to buy a home, explaining the process of buying a home, demystifying the journey, things like that. You're going to want to have that in your retargeting campaigns within social media so that people are seeing your name everywhere. When they start seeing you on phone calls, on texts, on emails, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, and your videos are good, like they bring the person some value and create authority, that's going to really resonate and be a game changer. Hey, this person's legitimate. They know what they're doing. When I'm ready to do something, this is going to be my person. So you have to have a retargeting strategy. And again, there's some companies that can help you with this. GGMS does a lot of retargeting. CR Interactive can do it for you direct. I believe Chime can do it for you direct as well. Nick Kramer Driven Leads can do this. But you need to have a retargeting strategy if you're going to convert pay-per-click leads. Simply calling and texting is not enough. I want to be crystal clear on that, okay? The next thing you need a behavioral alert process. So when a lead takes a certain action, you need to have a process of what you're going to do when that action occurs. Let me give an example. If a person looks at a property, let's say 5 or more times, you need to get notified about that. They need to do something about it, whether it's a text or a phone call or both. You need to have a tracking system in your CRM that's going to put these people on a list that you can work. I call this behavioral follow-up, okay? Someone takes a behavior, that leads to a follow-up. You're going to get a lot more conversion when you're focusing your efforts on behavioral-based follow-up versus cadence-based follow-up. Cadence-based follow-up is where you just blindly call people. Okay, here's a list. They're all equal, regardless of what they've been doing or not doing on my site, whether they've opened up a listing alert in the last week or haven't opened anything in 3 years, they're just all the same on this list. That's cadence-based follow-up. You want to use behavioral-based follow-up to focus your efforts on people that have taken actions recently that indicate maybe they're making that transition from the information collection phase to an actual purchase decision phase. Okay, so make sure you've got behavioral-based follow-up planned out in your process. Super, super important. Make sure you also have a follow-up process. So when you do talk to somebody, what's going to happen next? It's okay if you just kind of monitor their behavior and then give them a call once a week, every 2 weeks, once a month. But again, you should go off their behaviors versus cadence. Like if they're really engaged with your content, if they're filling out forms on your site, if they're pretty active at listing alerts, that's something you should be calling more often. And the reverse of that is true. If they're not engaging with anything, back off, and you don't need to spend as much time on that person, okay? The last thing, you need to really be pushing towards a consultation versus just going out and showing somebody a home. So this is what I call our buyer consultation process. I've done webinars on this. I've got a few videos on this as well. But be very crystal clear that your intent of the pay-per-click lead is not to schedule a home tour. It's to schedule a consultation at a coffee shop or in your office where you can sit down with people for 20 to 30 minutes, walk them through the home buying process from start to finish, get them up to speed in the market, and identify exactly what they're looking for. Okay, so be very clear on what your intentionality is when you're having conversations with these people. If you implement all these processes into your business and then you start turning on pay-per-click leads, you're going to do much better than most. So I mentioned that one of the reasons agents don't succeed with pay-per-click leads is the lack of skill development. The number one thing that I see agents doing wrong with this is they're very transactional. They focus on the house and not the person. Major credit to my boy, Robbie T over at Hatch Coaching, one of the best ISA coaches out there. This is something that he preaches and has been on it for years. I've known this guy for like 6 years, and he's like the first person that brought this to like my conscious awareness. Like, hey, stop talking about the house, start talking about the person. The more you can unpack their motivation in the first minute or two of the phone call versus talking about the home and being transactional, the more you're going to cut through that crap and actually build trust with this person, not just be another salesperson. So stop focusing on the house, really focus on understanding who that person is, and most importantly, what their motivation is. Like, why would they want to buy a home? What's prompting them to look at houses? Ask the why questions. Be curious. If you're curious, great things are going to come from those conversations. But focus on motivation, move away from the home. And also make sure you focus on the why behind their wanting to make a move. Maybe it's more space, maybe it's downsizing, maybe it's they're tired of renting. Whatever it is, you have to ask great clarifying questions and not make assumptions in the questions you're asking. So many people make assumptions when they're having conversations with people instead of acknowledging what the person just told you, then asking a very great follow-up question to clarify what they just told you. Master that skill set, and you're going to do exceptionally well with pay-per-click leads. The other thing, role plays. Got to talk to you about this. So many agents just don't do this. I see newer agents focus on role plays, and it's kind of a hit or miss effort. Like they come out of the gates really strong. Typically, they role play an hour a day for the first week they're on a team or in real estate, and then starts to wane off, and then eventually they're just not role playing at all. I also see very experienced agents where they're like, hey, you know what? I'm good. I've got my skill set down, and I don't need to role play. That is crap, you guys. You are never too good to role play and practice your language patterns, okay? I've closed hundreds of leads into actual transactions. I still role play. I do not want to practice on my leads. I want to make sure I've got my muscle memory down for everything that somebody could say to me and make sure I've got natural responses to those questions that I can also flip it back around and ask them another clarifying question. But that only comes from practice. Repetition is the law of learning. Famous saying, and it's super true here. You have to practice. I always use the analogy of SEAL Team 6 for experienced agents. SEAL Team 6 is some of the best shooters in the world. Do you think that SEAL Team 6 just sits around and says, you know what? Hey, I know how to shoot. I'm good. Bull crap. They don't do that. They go to the shooting range every freaking day. Those guys are putting more ammo down range than anyone else. They practice non-stop. You have to do that same thing with your lead conversion, whether if it's on the phone or in person. You have to practice. So if you're a professional, if you're going to take this to the next level, if you're serious about your skill set, make sure you're carving out 15 to 20 minutes every day to role play. I do mine 3 days a week. I found it's kind of a sustainable rhythm for me. And I just hit the hardest role plays I possibly can. I'll do commission objections. I'll do a lot of phone call, just different scenarios, things like that. but make sure you're role-playing everything that possibly come up, okay? So role plays should not be passive. They should be your hardest call of the day. You need to be role-playing with somebody that's as good or better than you. Oftentimes I see experienced agents grab onto a new agent, and that new agent cannot give them an actual challenging role play. That's not going to help you, okay? You need to have a hard role play with an equal partner. And don't necessarily have to just look within your office walls for a role play partner. There's lots of groups online. If you find somebody, there's no excuse to not have a couple of dedicated role play partners that you're going to get on the phone with or on Zoom with or in person with several times a week and role play hard. Best case, do this every day. Worst case, do it 2 or 3 days a week, but consistently do it, okay? You have to practice. I cannot stress this enough. Okay, the last one was just unrealistic expectations. I talked about how agents think that, hey, if I don't close all these deals in the first month I'm on pay-per-click leads, these are crappy leads. That's just not the truth. You just have unrealistic expectations. So I want to be very, very clear that the average close that we've seen for pay-per-click leads is 18 months. So are you willing to invest in pay-per-click leads for 18 months with no return on investment, knowing that this is a long-term play? If you're not, probably shouldn't even consider doing it. But if you are, then your value is going to come in the nurture. How can you build nurturing systems where you're going to stay in front of this person, okay? Like I said earlier, we typically close about 1% of our pay-per-click leads in the first 90 days. So if we get 100 leads generated, there's one close to be found in there. We have to find that one. It's going to feel like a lot of rejection. It's going to feel like a lot of not interested, just looking, not right now kind of conversations, but there's one in there. I promise you, if you look hard enough and you have the skills to convert it, you will find that one close within the first 90 days. If you get very good at pay-per-click and you have all the systems in place to talk about, you should be able to close another 2.5% over the following 1.5 to 2 years. So this is a long-term play. Please do not just put one toe into pay-per-click leads. You're not going to be successful with it. Just don't even start. Don't even bother if that's your mindset when it comes to this. Have very realistic expectations and know this is going to be a long-term play. It's a very sustainable lead source because of how affordable it is, okay? Also, video matters. Like if you want to have higher conversions, make sure, like I said earlier, you've got a retargeting video strategy. We're going to be able to put content of value in front of these people and stay omnipresent with them, okay? And then just systems. Like you have to be able to nurture these people. Knowing that it's going to be 18 months to convert this person, what do I need to do to stay in front of them? Well, I know I need to have videos going out to them. I need to call them every now and then. And I know I need to focus my calls around the behaviors they're making. Maybe I don't need to call them once a month. I need to call them when they take a significant behavior. And then I probably need to text them every so often. Do those things and do them with consistency. You're going to get great results, okay? So what do you need to actually run pay-per-click leads? Well, I've got kind of a list of 6 things that I think you're going to want to make sure you've got buttoned down before you actually start doing pay-per-click leads. So if you get these 6 and you dial them in, you're going to do really well with this. The first thing, you need an IDX-enabled website. Like I said, we use Sierra Interactive. I'm a huge fan of Sierra. I've been with them for 5 years. One of the most powerful websites out there for the CRM side of things and for the user experience. Absolutely love it. If you want an introduction to Sierra Interactive, reach out to me. Happy to connect with our people over there. But you don't have to use Sierra. You could use Chime. If you're with us at Real, you get Chime for like $40 a month, which is an amazing deal. It's only $500 a month. So that could be a big savings. Chime is perfectly acceptable. If you use Follow Boss, it's one of the most popular CRMs, but it is not an IDX site. So you're going to need to plug in an IDX site, whether that's Sierra Interactive or Realtor or whatever. IDX site just means it's connected to the MLS, and that's going to be able to capture people's information when they look at a certain amount of properties. For us, we set our registration policy on picture 1. We've just found that's what works. We've tried pulling it back to like, hey, let's try to filter these leads and make sure they're more intentional, and we'll grab on picture number 10, and it hasn't worked as well. You want to grab them on picture number 1 and have that setting turn on there. But you need an IDX-enabled site. You also need a pay-per-click manager. So you don't have to hire this out, but the learning curve to pay-per-click management is pretty steep. And if you make a mistake, it could cost you a lot of money. So I don't recommend managing your own pay-per-click campaigns. I have studied a lot of how to manage pay-per-click, and I just choose not to do it. It's not the highest and best use of my time. I want a specialist that just does this full time. There's just so many things to know about it to do it at a very high level. So GGMS does pay-per-click. Sierra Interactive can do it for you. If you have Chime, they can do it for you. Nick Kramer from Driven Leads is awesome. We used him for years. All great people to work with. They can all set up your pay-per-click campaigns. They've all worked with dozens, if not hundreds of teams very, very successfully. So the ones that we've worked with GGMS, we've worked with Sierra Interactive, we've worked with Nick Kramer, and all are very good. So reach out to one of those if you need someone to manage your pay-per-click. You can plan on spending about 10% of the spend in management fees with a minimum of about $500 a month, depending on the person you're going to work with. Some CRMs like CR Interactive will include a certain amount of management for free if you're already paying them for the CRM. So just look at that as well from an affordability perspective. You also need to set up lead routing rules. So within your CRM, what happens automatically to these leads when they come into your system? For us in CR Interactive, we've got about 25 different lead routing rules for different lead sources, different times of the day or of the week, different lenders, things like that. But the lead routing rule for us does things like it assigns the agent, it notifies them they have a new lead, it starts the action plan automatically, it starts a call plan automatically as well as tasks, and it also assigns the lender and an automated listing alert. So things like that, you want to make sure you've got set up, and it should also apply all your tagging automatically. So make sure you've got your lead routing rules fully dialed in. Those should continue to be evolved and enhanced the longer you run pay-per-click leads. Make sure you got them very, very beefy. But the way your lead routing rules are set up is very important database organization of your system and doing things in a very efficient way. Okay. Fourth thing you need, an established role play schedule. Make sure you've got a schedule in writing that you're going to be committed to sticking with. Please do it from a sustainability perspective. Don't just try to do it every single day for an hour a day. You're never going to stick with that when you get busy. 15, 20 minutes a day, 3-4 times a week, that's golden. Just do it consistently, no matter what. This is an appointment with yourself. You have to stick to this appointment. Super important. The fifth thing you need is some kind of accountability process. So if you have a team, and you should hold yourself accountable if you don't too, what is your process for turning off leads if something doesn't happen? Like if phone calls aren't being made, if tasks are getting backed up, what does that accountability look like? You need to have something in place for that. The sixth and final thing is analytics. You need to have some kind of system set up to track your data. We use Sisu. I'm a huge fan of Sisu. If you want an introduction to the guys over at Sisu, let me know. We've been with them since they really started. Powerful, powerful analytics product. It's great for teams. It connects directly to your CRM. It's going to track things like calls made, appointments set, appointments met, appointments signed, closed, all of your lead sources. That's why I know exactly what our cost per close is. I know what our percentage of leads closed is by source as well, is because we track it all in Sisu. So you need to have some kind of analytics tracker. You need to know if this is working or not working. You know what your conversions are. You know how long it takes to convert them, and all those other things are so important. So Sisu is definitely my favorite tool for that. It's not the cheapest one out there, but it's also the best. And so you kind of get what you pay for when it comes to that. But take a look at Sisu, reach out to me for an introduction. So there you have it. Very in-depth video about pay-per-click leads. Again, I firmly believe this could account for 30-40% of your business if you do this right. It's so scalable, it's so predictable if you build the systems and the processes and you actually commit to the skill set. If you're interested in learning more about Real Brokerage, of course, reach out to me. My contact information is down below. I mentor agents across the entire country. Both my wife, Rachel, and I do, and it's a true passion of ours. So if we can help you with this, if we can lock arms with you, help you grow at Real Brokerage, we would love to do that. Reach out to me.